I'm Justin Lesko, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt and former pro MMA fighter.
And I'm Mike Callahan, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt and a law enforcement officer.
Everyone loves a good rivalry and a fight between two guys who really hate each other. And UFC 259 may have given us a new feud in the bantamweight division between Petr Yan and Aljamain Sterling.
Yeah, there was a controversial ending to their title fight, and the War of the Words has been escalating ever since Saturday night.
We're going to look at the illegal knee, whether it should be illegal, whether Aljo was faking, and what comes next.
Plus, we're going to talk about the results from the rest of the card, which turned out to be a pretty incredible card. We'll talk about Amanda Nunes' dominance, and we'll talk about Jan Blachowicz, as Bruce Buffer's been calling him, and Israel Adesanya fighting to a decision that we may or may not agree with.
We've got a lot to cover, so let's get into it.
Welcome to That Jiu-Jitsu Podcast.
So not because of any chronological order, but just because of, I think, the biggest story from this weekend was the Aljamain Sterling, Petr Yan, illegal knee, and not even so much the knee itself, but everything that has followed since.
Let's address a few things first. That knee was brutal, right? It landed flush. It was a brutal knee. So I know that there's people out there saying that the knee, that Aljamain Sterling was faking it. And
before we get that far, let's just recap in case anyone missed the fight, or just so we're all on the same page. The fight started, Aljamain Sterling had a very high pace. He came out very aggressive, and he was really treating the fight like a sprint, not so much a marathon. I thought he was winning the fight early on, even though Petr Yan did get a knockdown towards the end of round one. And
yes,
as the fight was going on, Aljamain Sterling started to slow down and the tide was shifting. Yan was sort of taking over, and you could see that Aljo was shooting weak shots. Like, he wasn't concerned at all about Jan's grappling, and he wasn't worried about getting stuck underneath him, which is a little bit of foreshadowing to what comes next. But Aljo shot for a takedown, like sort of lazily, and he was kind of stalling on the bottom, like he was on his hands and knees almost. And Yan just straight up super illegally kneed him right in the head after being warned by the referee that Aljo was down and to not throw the knee.
Yeah.
And he did it anyway. And because the referee determined that it was an intentional illegal strike, when the doctor said that Aljamain Sterling couldn't continue, it was disqualification. Petr Yan loses his title. Aljo is the new champion at 135. That's where we are.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a couple things too. The referee clearly stating that he's down, and I don't know if there's a language barrier or if that's what but that makes this even more egregious, right? You have a guy, even though you're in the heat of the moment there, you have a guy next to you screaming, he's down, he's down. He intentionally threw the knee.
And Jan has said since then, he said, I didn't intentionally throw the knee, which I think he's meaning he didn't intend to throw an illegal strike because he didn't know that it was illegal, not that he didn't mean to make his knee hit Sterling in the face. But
even if he doesn't know, that the knee is illegal, then that's a problem.
Right.
And if he doesn't know that he's grounded, then that's a problem. That just shows a complete lack of awareness inside the cage, and that's an issue. I think it was the right call. I think that Aljo shouldn't have been made to continue. And I think that it was the right call disqualifying Jan and giving the fight to Aljo.
Yeah, I think the referee did a really good job. He did a good job of first saying he's down. He did a good job of controlling the situation. He did a good job of informing the commission and the doctor of what was happening. He did a good job of, like, some referees would kind of try to hurry things along. Like, he wasn't at all trying to be like, all right, let's go, Aljo, keep fighting. Like, the fight was over.
Right.
DC even said it. DC agreed with me that Aljamain Sterling was too compromised, even if the fight did continue. I put out at 3 a.m. after the card, I put out like a quick video talking about the knee because it was such like a big thing. I just wanted to put something out real quick talking about it. And the comments on that video really broke down into people either saying, well, one person, I should be nice to our viewers, one person said, in a real fight, you couldn't just stall like Aljo did underneath, so the knee shouldn't be illegal, which is a separate conversation.
Right.
But people saying that Aljamain Sterling was faking the injury, hamming it up, just doing what he could do to get out of there to get the title, I disagree. I strongly disagree.
If you're Aljamain Sterling, do you feel legitimate? Do you feel legitimized by this win? Okay, hold on. Before you answer that, Jan was ahead of on all three scorecards, right?
Yeah, I think if the fight kept going, Jan would have won the fight if it had kept going.
That's
what
what
it
I was getting at. Yep, it was trending in his direction. I gave round 1 to Aljo, 2 and 3 were to Petr Yan, and I thought that he was winning the 4th round. With that being said, do you think that this should impact the way that Aljamain Sterling views himself as the champion right now? Like, do you think that he should view this as a legitimate, like, is he the legitimate champion at 135 pounds?
So here's the thing. Here's the thing with this issue. Legitimate doesn't mean satisfying. It wasn't a satisfying end to the fight, but it was a fight that ended because of the rules of the fight. So it's like if you walk in the winning run in extra innings, it's within the rules. It's not satisfying. It sucks.
Yeah,
that's not the way I want to see it, but he's the legitimate champ. He's the legitimate champion because the other person didn't follow the rules of the sport. Like,
okay,
I don't.
It's right.
But he can also feel like I need to fight him again and beat him in a traditional sense. Beat him by winning a decision or getting a finish, not relying on a disqualification to feel more substantiated. But it's not like he's a fake champion. Should have followed the rules, man. I don't know what to tell you.
I think that he needs to alter his game plan. I think that Ray Longo and Matt Serra and those guys will recognize that. And I think that he doesn't need to come out of the gate so quick next time. I think that if he is able to sustain, because he was gassing.
Yeah, you could see in his attempts at takedowns that he was literally just bending over and reaching for the legs. And like you talked about them making adjustments, I think an adjustment that will be made in the next fight is just because you're comfortable with, even if this guy gets your back, you know he's not going to submit you. You don't care if you're on bottom. You don't care what any grappling position you start with. The optics of that don't look good. So if you're shooting for a lazy shot on purpose to end up underneath him to then engage in grappling, it just looks like you're really tired, whether or not you are.
Which he was.
Which he was, but it looks like you're also in a bad position, which scores against you. So I think that would be an adjustment. I think that they won't come out a million miles an hour.
With that being said, I was impressed with Aljo in the first round. I was really impressed with Petr Yan in the second, third, and fourth rounds leading up to the stoppage here. We had predicted that Aljo would be able to get him down. It just seemed like it kind of reminded me of Chuck Liddell back in the day. Like you might be able to get him down, but he was just going to get back up. You know what I mean? And Petr Yan just kept popping back up. You know what I mean? So I was impressed. If Aljo can sustain the pace and the game plan that he had in the first round, I think that the rematch is going to play out in his favor. If it goes anything like it did this first fight, I think that if it goes anything like it did in this first fight, I think that Petr Yan is going to come out on top. Well,
it didn't take long for, like we said in the open, the war of the words to start, where you sort of felt like after the fight, I expected Aljo to say the right things and say he's not satisfied and wants to run the fight back. And I expected Petr Yan to apologize for the illegal knee and they'll run the fight back. So Aljamain Sterling, I guess, posted a picture of like after his fight, him having a drink and cheersing with people while he's holding the belt. And Petr Yan posted that picture and said, quote, "I won't accept the belt this way," quote, and then 5 minutes later was the picture. Aljamain Sterling responds and says I read it to you. You're right, Petey. I should have told everyone who flew out to Vegas to not come to my house, to not say they were happy to see me, and not want to take any pictures with me. By this logic, I should have been locked in my room until my next fight. It makes sense. And from there, it's just been sort of going back and forth about, Jan saying he's not the real champion, Aljo saying, that he is. Aljo kind of rightfully getting frustrated that everyone's talking shit on the way that he won the belt when he was the victim of getting illegally kneed in the fucking forehead. I think that a little bit of rivalry here where I don't want to say they were cordial going into this fight, but there wasn't a lot of heat between them.
No, they didn't like each other. It wasn't like
they might not have liked each other, but it wasn't like an outward feud. Like it wasn't Aldo versus McGregor, or it wasn't Dominic Cruz versus Uriah Faber. It was just these two guys are going to fight, and that's why they don't like each other. A little bit of heat and fire between them of getting really pissed at each other and really talking a lot of shit to each other. I think the second fight will do really well money-wise because that's what people like. That's what I like. That's what I want to see.
I get the frustration from both people, from both sides here. I more so with Aljamain Sterling. I understand why he's frustrated because Petr Yan's just trying to put this on him. He didn't do anything wrong. Aljamain Sterling didn't do anything wrong, and I just feel like there's this perception that these guys, because they're MMA fighters, should be forced to, carry on through these terrible fouls, like, getting kicked in the nuts or, getting kneed on the ground, or just this stuff like where nobody, like, it's just not realistic, but there's this expectation that they're supposed to, for whatever reason, continue. I get it. At the same time, Petr Yan, I hopefully, kind of, he was emotional. It's like an impulsive decision to make that, because if you objectively look at it, the only person that you have to blame for that is yourself. One more thing before we move on. There's no reason that knees and kicks to down the punch shouldn't be allowed.
Right. It should be legal.
It should be legal, but it's not. And everybody who fights in the UFC knows this.
If your argument that Aljamain shouldn't be the champion because that knee shouldn't be illegal, that's not the question here. The question of should it be illegal is a separate topic. I think that it should be legal. I think that if you're in that position, you should be able to be hit. I don't think soccer kicks should be legal. I don't think shots to the back of the head should be legal, but a knee to a downed opponent should be legal. Because it should be legal doesn't mean you can just do whatever you want, ignore the rules, and there's no consequence. Like, that's why there's rules to a sport. If you don't like them, you have to follow them.
I want it to be legal. But it's not. Well, I want it to be. Well, tough shit. It's not. Follow the rules. Everybody else is.
Yeah, I think it should be legal. There's no reason that it shouldn't. There's no reason that. Yeah, that knee was devastating. That it hit him right in the head. Like that knee was really bad. That's a bad shot to take. But so is getting elbowed in the face. I'm not a physicist. I haven't done the math on the units of force, the newtons applied to his head via that knee or an elbow. But what are we talking about here? We're talking about a cage fight where it's highly trained opponents fighting each other.
Yeah.
Saying one thing is more dangerous than another, if you're not striking a very dangerous area like the back of the head, or you're not striking like a soccer kick with an extreme amount of force, this should be legal.
I agree.
But let's move along because I'm getting fired up.
We're getting aggravated here. We're getting pissed off.
I'm getting high blood pressure, and I have naturally low blood pressure because I'm such a great athlete. So
now he has normal blood pressure.
Yeah, I'm like a human now.
Just so we're clear, having low blood pressure isn't a good thing.
It's better than high blood pressure.
Right, but it's not ideal. Like, you don't want low blood pressure. A low heart rate's good. Low blood pressure's not good.
What's your resting heart rate? Do you know what your resting heart rate is?
When I just got this done, I thought.
Sounds like a guy who's stalling, so you can Google what's a good resting heart rate before he answers.
No, it's low. It is low. I don't know. Is in the 80s maybe? Is that good?
No, that is terrible.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, my resting heart rate is like in the mid 40s.
I don't believe it.
I'll show you the data. Yeah, you want a low resting heart rate, like in the 40s. I consider myself to be in really good shape. In the 40s is pretty good. You hear like elite level cyclists and runners can have one in the low 40s, possibly like the high 30s. In the 50s, I think is pretty average, but anything higher than like mid 50s, I think is you're just pretty out of shape.
I don't think that that's the case at all.
Yeah, for sure.
Wrestling. I'm Googling it.
Yeah, we all knew you were Googling it.
No, I'm Googling it now.
Mm-hmm.
A normal resting heart rate is 60 to 100 beats.
That's
normal.
For Americans.
Okay.
Americans are fat and out of shape.
So, here we go. So Justin was just disproven by Google, but now he's going to try to offer some type of explanation. Target heart rates. Let's go to the American Heart Association. You're going to fucking try to argue with them?
I'm saying that your target heart rate as an athlete should be low.
The word heart is in their name.
What do they say?
Is the word heart in your name? Okay, so that's target heart rates.
So you can tell by the way Mike's talking that he found information that backs me up. So now he's searching.
It's not true. No. It says for most of us, between 60 and 100 beats per minute is normal. The rate can be affected by factors like stress, anxiety, hormones, medication, and how physically active you are. An athlete or a more active person may have a resting heart rate as low as 40 beats per minute. Now that's chill.
Big J was right.
No. You're not. You said anything above mid 50s is bad.
Yeah, because it means you're not in shape, and not in shape is bad. Yeah, it's average. The average person
doesn't mean you're not in shape. It doesn't mean you're not in shape.
Yes, it does. If you're in shape, you can't have a resting heart rate in the 60s.
That's on the low end of the American Heart Association. The low end.
For healthy,
but again, what the fuck
people.
Do they know? It's only the American Heart Association. These fucking guys. I mean, you can't take anything that they say at face value. Fuck. And they try to fake us out too with the American Heart, like the name.
You're gonna trust big heart data? Come on.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and they even got a little heart symbol on it. You're not fooling me.
Yeah, you can't tell me that if you have an average heart rate, you have elite fitness. That's what I'm saying. If you have an average heart rate, you are average fitness.
You're just changing up. I don't want you to cut 1 minute of this out, and people are going to be like, "This guy is this guy on drugs?" Because he just keeps jumping around the topic.
Well, it's good to be the editor, first of all, but second of all, I have to cut this out because people don't want an hour-long episode of us arguing over the American Heart Association.
All right, go ahead.
Moving right along, Amanda Nunes did what you and I successfully predicted that she would do. Correct. She did Amanda Nunes things. So if you're not already, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel because coming in a few days, I did a technique breakdown of this whole fight of how Amanda Nunes set up this triangle armbar and how she adjusted and got the finish. So I'll put that link up in a few days, so make sure you're subscribed. But the long and the short of it is Amanda Nunes punches people really hard no matter how tall they are. And when they get hurt, they shoot for lazy takedowns that Amanda Nunes stuffs, gets on top, switches to a submission, hits a triangle armbar, and bends your arm the wrong way, and is the greatest fighter of all time.
Yeah, she's incredible. I don't know who she's going to fight because I don't know if there's anybody at 45. I know that Juliana Pena has pulled out of the Holly Holm fight, and she's kind of angling for a match with Amanda Nunes, but
Nunes will smoke her.
It's just not. I mean, like, it's
Pena's
just not
a good
fair.
fighter, but good fighters don't have a chance against Amanda Nunes. And
yeah,
if you go on the UFC's ranking website, they don't even have a top 10 for 145. For 145, it's just Amanda Nunes' picture as the champion, and then a blank space below her. Like
Megan Anderson isn't even on the roster anymore.
Yeah. Yep.
They should just do away with the 145-pound division, consolidate it with the Invicta roster, and just let them have a 145-pound division over there, and just whoever is the champion, just hold the belt with the understanding that you're the champion at 145 because Amanda Nunes wants you to be the champion at 145.
Well, at the time of us recording this, 145 still exists. So if in the next couple of days it gets canceled, it wasn't when we're talking right now. Because there's rumors that 145 is going to get canceled, but Dana White said that if Nunes wants to keep defending that belt, then they'll keep putting fights on. I think the smart play if you're Amanda Nunes is to not keep defending that belt, because I don't know how much people are going to tune in to watch people they've never heard of get mauled by you. Like, at least when Ronda Rousey was running through people, we knew who those other fighters were.
Right.
145, there's just nobody. The problem is at 135, Nunes has pretty much cleaned that division out. So I don't know. I guess just beat everyone you haven't beat yet, like Juliana Pena, whether or not they really deserve a title shot. I mean, I don't know what the play is.
Yeah. And there's talk about that Kayla Harrison from the PFL, but she
Yeah.
fights at 155. It's just like, it's not really fair to Amanda Nunes either. Like, what is she? She's beaten everybody they're putting in front of her. She's demolished people. Like, it's just like maybe Shevchenko comes up again.
But she's already beat
Maybe.
Shevchenko twice at 135. So it's like,
I know.
but the Kayla Harrison thing, yeah, Kayla Harrison fights at 155. Amanda Nunes is a 135er who fights at 145. She's not a 145er struggling to get to 35. She's
Right.
easily moving up. Would I bet against her if she was giving up 20 pounds to Harrison? No, I would not. I would bet on Amanda Nunes to win that fight because it's Amanda Nunes. But even that, like, again, what? It's not her fault. What is she supposed to do? She's got to fight the people that are in front of her, and I guess just keep marching out Juliana Pena type people who don't really deserve it, but you kind of know their name, and let Amanda Nunes keep stacking money because she is exciting to watch. She just does whatever she wants to these other fighters, and it's crazy.
Yeah, I agree. She's on another planet.
The main event was obviously Israel Adesanya versus Jan Blachowicz, which I should have put the disclaimer out last weekend. Don't speak Polish. We're going to say it wrong. I'm sorry about it. But before we get to some of the controversial topics, let's again just sort of run down the fight for anyone who may have missed it. The first round was sort of a feel it out round. There weren't any real shots that landed, and it was like, oh my God, he got him. Like, it was sort of feeling it out. And as the fight went on, Izzy was throwing his usual flashier strikes, and he was using his movement a lot, but Jan was landing a lot of significant strikes, and you could maybe argue that he was landing the harder shots of the two. And it was the last round that, even if the scores were close, Jan hit a takedown and he finished the fight on top, landing some good ground and pound. He passed Izzy's guard, just like I could pass Izzy's guard when we eventually do our sub-only match.
Yeah, I think so.
And that really secured the decision win for Jan. Do you agree with the decision that Jan won?
Yes.
In the moment, I could have seen Izzy winning 3 out of 5 rounds. But watching it 2 and 3 times, I think that the judges were right, and I do think that Jan won. I think if you watch the fight with no commentary, it becomes even more evident that Jan won, because DC and Rogan were really on the "we want Izzy to win" train, and the commentary was incredibly biased.
Yeah. The other thing too is there was a couple judges who gave that 5th round 10-8. I feel like these 10-8 rounds are becoming more and more common in MMA.
Well, that was they switched the ruling around to where you could get a 10-8 for dominant control without doing dominant damage, which I don't like.
Yeah, I don't like it either.
I think they should have been more liberal with the old 10-8s where it took less to earn a 10-8, but you still had to put a lot of damage on. It couldn't just be top control and the other person couldn't move for 4 minutes.
Right. And if you remember when we did the preview, I said that Jan just walks through shit. You know what I mean? And like the Dominic Reyes fight was just crazy in terms of the shit that he was getting hit with, and he was still going forward. When he fought Luke Rockhold, he was getting hit and he just kept coming forward. I thought that Izzy's precision, his timing, his speed would just be too much, but he was just getting, when he would land shit, it just didn't seem to phase Jan. I love Izzy. I can't stand John Jones, but this should have just put it into perspective for everybody. What would happen if those two fought?
Weight classes exist for a reason. And right. I, just like everybody else, We just talked about it's fun to watch two guys who really dislike each other fight each other. And you look at Izzy and you look at John Jones, and they're tall, lanky, really good strikers who don't like each other, and we want to watch that fight. But weight classes exist for a reason, and you are correct when you say this just shows what would happen in a John Jones fight. It would be more of the same.
Hats off to Izzy for stepping up and taking a challenge. Hats off to Jan for, stepping up, accepting the challenge, and winning a fight that I don't think a lot of people thought he was going to win.
We didn't think he was going to win. We picked against him. We did. Izzy to win.
He had a really smart game plan, though. Utilizing the wrestling in the later rounds really helped him. Using his size to his advantage, because he was probably, just looking at the size difference, he was probably 220, 225.
Yeah.
And Izzy weighed in at 200 pounds. So yeah, it was a size difference, and it was a big deal.
And don't get my constant call outs of Izzy wrong. I just want to grapple him because it'd be a lot of fun, and he's a UFC champ, and that's probably the only way I'll get to grapple him. Also, I think I can beat him, so that's also fun too.
Yeah, I think you can beat him.
I really like Izzy, and I really liked him even more after this loss, and just the way he's handled the loss. He recognizes he took a big swing and a big challenge. He lost a fight that we thought he was going to win. A lot of people thought he was going to win, and he didn't. And he's been like all class, super friendly with Jan after the fight, super congratulatory. He knows he's going back to 185. He's got more work to do there. Not making excuses, not saying, oh, he was so big, not, complaining. It's just, if you're a champion and you lose a fight, just the way we saw Dominic Cruz be when he, lost and was really good in interviews, I'm happy to see Izzy be that way as well. I do want to talk about the commentary because it does bother me a lot. I get that it was probably better for the UFC as a company if Izzy won that fight, and I get that Joe Rogan and DC work for the UFC, but there were times when Jan would be landing and they'd be talking about how Jan needs to do more work. Or statistically, Jan had landed more significant strikes, and DC says, I need to see more output from Jan. He's already done more output than Izzy. There was a time when Jan sort of hit a takedown and was like looking for a choke real quick, but Izzy escaped and sort of glanced Jan on the way out with a shot. And Rogan is talking about, oh, it stung him there. Izzy got him, stung him. Didn't say shit about the takedown or the submission attempt. Like, they go to do the post-fight interview, and Rogan asks Jan a question that clearly he had only written questions to ask Izzy, because he asked Jan about moving up from 185, to which Jan replied, I've only ever fought at 205. I've never fought at 185. So, like, I get it. I get you're pushing the guy in the narrative you want to push, but that's dangerous in an environment where there's no crowd and the judges can hear you. So you have an influence if you're talking loudly about one guy winning the fight and not mentioning the other guy at all.
I guess you have to kind of view each of these fighters as products. And like you said, it would have been beneficial if the Izzy product would have won. And, we can call these commentators, unbiased and objective. But at the end of the day, remember two things. They're human. They have emotions. So I think for DC, he hates John Jones. He sees Izzy as a potential threat to John Jones. Well, I hope he doesn't anymore, because God forbid Izzy fought John Jones. And number two, they work for the UFC.
Yeah.
It's not like they're private contractors. They work for the UFC. So they're at some point, yeah, I'm sure that, I don't want to say they're told what to say, but, there's some input there from the higher ups, I'm sure.
Well, yeah, and to your point that they're human, yeah, I understand that people will have a bias. We on this show, we have a bias. I openly have talked about, I think within the last 3 episodes we've recorded, I make picks on fights on Instagram based on who I like sometimes.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Yep.
The only difference is when you're calling the fight, my Instagram, I'm very popular on Instagram, but my voice is not reaching millions of people watching the fight. And you've done a bit of a disservice now to Jan because you've painted him as the loser of this fight to millions of people, especially casual viewers of the UFC, who maybe won't tune in next time he fights because Joe Rogan told them during the fight this guy wasn't very good. So, yes, there's a bias. Yes, people have opinion. I think very consciously about how my bias is affecting my picks, and I do my best to tell our audience when I'm picking based on a bias. I just would like to see a little bit more even commentary. And I know it's a very difficult job, and I'm sure when we get hired by the UFC to be commentators, we'll struggle with it too. But Joe Rogan's been doing it for 20 years. Give me a better job, man.
Yeah, seriously.
All in all, I think the event was really good. Yeah, Sean Brady, local guy, won. Is that what you were going to say?
Yeah. And here's my thing, all right?
You know it's intense when he gets close to the mic.
Brendan Schaub.
All right, before you get going, I'm going to edit very little of this because I can already tell it's going to be a rant. And Mike texted me earlier today and said, Brendan Schaub has it coming tonight. And then when I said, what are you going to say? He did not respond. So the floor is yours. Take it away.
Thank you, sir. I'm about to filibust.
Abosh filibuster. Hashtag Abosh filibuster.
So we do pull for the local guys. So the Dawkins brothers, Sean Brady, Pat Sabatini just got called up a couple weeks ago, and then his opponent decided to be a dickbag and weigh like 1,700 pounds overweight, whatever. So we're local guys, right? The hype around Sean Brady is real. We've been talking about this kid for a fucking year, right? He dominates Jake Matthews. I go online, I'm on Instagram, and I see these clips about Brendan Schaub saying, this is the time. You better get on the Sean Brady train. There's still room to get on the Sean Brady train. It's like, you're telling me? You're Brendan Schaub? With your stupid fucking haircut? You're telling me? And listen, Brendan, this is no bullshit. A little part of this is because you never responded to our DM to come on the show, but that's not what's fueling this. Offer still stands. I'm sorry about the haircut comment, okay? Feel free to come on anytime. However, we have been on this train since the first stop, so don't you lecture. When I heard that, I'm like, this motherfucker's talking to us. He's not, because he doesn't fucking know us, because he doesn't respond to our fucking DMs. But anyway,
well, I didn't want to break the news to you that when Brendan Schaub posts on Instagram, he's not only talking to you. That's not necessarily how Instagram works.
But he's lecturing people. It's like, buddy, I don't know if you've heard this, but I know you got your below the belt and you got the fighter and the kids. It sucks since Brian Callen left. Again, I'm sorry. I'd love to have you on here to talk about it, but don't worry about it if you're too busy. We have a pretty popular podcast. Don't tell us to get on the Sean Brady train because we've been on since the first stop, guy.
I am shocked you have not made a conductor pun about the Sean Brady train. I thought for sure, as soon as the first time you said the word train, I thought that you were going to say you were the conductor.
I was going to say we are the conductors, but we're not the conductors. Anyway, I see Sean Brady on Instagram all the time. Like, this kid is a fucking savage. I see the guys he's training with. He's down at that EEFC. It's at Extreme Evolution Fight Camp. He's with Daniel Gracie. This kid is a killer, and he is going to wreak havoc at 170 pounds.
Yeah, it was a good fight for Sean Brady. I think that was a good start to the card. I thought, like I said in the beginning, I thought the card lived up to the hype that even we put on it. I was really excited for this event, minus the crazy illegal knee that, sometimes you got to suffer an illegal knee to get a build up to what should be a really good second fight. And we should see some fun build up to that. Get a little boost for 135, which maybe needed a little boost. So
that'll sort itself out. Yep. I'm looking forward to it for sure.
A through F, rank this card A through F.
My biggest fear was like I was hyped up right? And I felt like I was going to be let down just because 3 title fights. Overall, I'll give it a solid B. I was going to say B plus, but B. Solid B.
I'm going to give it a B plus because the reason it doesn't get an A plus is the knee, and the fight being won by disqualification knocks it down. I still think it deserves the plus because the fight in the lead up to the knee was still exciting. It was an exciting pace by Aljo, and Jan sort of took over, and it was fun watching that play out. B plus.
It turned out, I mean, like I said in the opening, it did turn out to be a pretty incredible card. There was 15 fights. There was 8 hours of fighting on there. Like, that is just an impressive feat in itself, you know?
Yeah.
Again, the UFC just continues to just pump out these shows in the midst of a pandemic, which is hopefully coming to an end soon, and the restrictions are going to be kind of pulled back. I know they're working on shows in Texas, but yeah, I mean, I think that it was a pretty incredible show. Could it have been better? Absolutely. But
Dana White, if you're listening, which seems unlikely because you have not responded to my DMs yet, if you're going to put 3 title fights on a show, let's try and do the guys who have to put out content at 3 a.m. a favor, and maybe on 3 title fights, do like 12 total fights so I can go to bed a little bit earlier when I'm trying to put out videos for our fans at 3 a.m. maybe.
If Dana White and Brendan Schaub have issues with each other, so, we'll schedule you guys on different days so you don't have to.
We can be the mediator.
All right, guys, thanks for hanging out with us. We put the links to our social media accounts below, so if you want to follow us individually or follow the show, just give the links a click, check them out.
If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up. Make sure that you're subscribed. We have a lot of content coming, including that breakdown of the Amanda Nunes win that I mentioned earlier. And if you want to support the show, please check out our Patreon, which I linked to below as well. There's bonus content there, monthly blooper reel. We have bonus episodes. Did I already say bonus episodes? Bonus episodes, exclusive content. So it's just a good way to get extra stuff from us. Plus, it helps us put out content for you guys. Say you're sorry to Brendan Schaub for being mean to him.
I don't think I was mean to him, but don't invite us onto a train that we're already on.
We got the train covered. We're good. We're good on trains. Thanks, everybody. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks, guys.